Hey y'all, how you doing? D-Book here with another episode of Without Sin. Today we're going to be trying out the Glock 26 Gen 5 out of the range. We are in beautiful, windy Colorado, so I hope you guys can hear me. I hope the wind doesn't really interfere with what it is that we got going on. But we're going to test the Glock 26, see what it does, try to have some fun. Obviously, the most important thing that we got to do is stay safe, so I'm going to give you guys a quick tip. Alright guys, so here's your quick tip. So we're out here at the range. We just set one up real quick. We're out here in nature. So a few things that I want to pay attention to whenever I'm setting up my range. One, I want to look to see if I can find an area that's nice and flat so I have a good area where I can stand. Two, as you're creating your lane, you want to make sure that you don't have any hazards or anything that you could accidentally trip on. Trip over, fall, accidentally have an ND, God forbid that happens, but, you want to eliminate all opportunities. Another thing you want to do is when you're setting up your target, you want situational awareness. So that's basically understanding your surroundings. That's understanding what is around you. So we've set up our target. We've got a nice little slope behind our target. So whenever we are firing, we know that our bullets are going to be stopped back behind it. So you want to make sure and be aware of what is behind your target. So that's just your quick tip for whenever you're setting up your range. Alright guys, so what I want to talk about now is setting up a proper grip. Okay, I've got my firearm cleared. I've got the magazine out. I'm going to show you guys how I set up my grip. Obviously there's probably going to be differences depending on the person, but I'm just going to show you guys how I set up my grip. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take the firearm, I'm going to place it in right there in the palm of my hand, right, this little section right there on the heel of the firearm. That's where you want to place that. Okay, I'm going to flip it over and show you guys how good that grip is in right there. So you put your finger across. You never put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to fire. So you set that up, you wrap your fingers across the top. I'm going to throw an empty mag in real quick to demonstrate what I do with my other hand. So I've got a little more to add on to. You guys can see that I can't really fully close my pinky in on it, but I'm going to act like I can. Then I'm going to take my other hand and I'm going to roll it right across just like that. I'm going to rest my thumbs right on top of each other, and then I'm going to take my other fingers and wrap the fingers right across. Okay, that's how you guys are going to have a nice sturdy grip. You guys shouldn't have any issues with being able to control the firearm if you set up this grip. Again, this is just how I do it. This is what I have found to be best practice. So that's just another tip for you guys to understand how to better set up your grip. Alright guys, so I got my range set up and I'm ready to go. I've cleared out all of the potential hazards. I understand what's behind my target. So now we're going to talk about distance. So the average distance for you to become efficient in your target practice shooting is typically around 7 yards. Okay, so that's about, I've got my paces out, so I've got a good idea that I'm right around that 7-yard mark. So I'm gonna put my safety equipment on, my ear protection. I've got my iPro ready, and now I'm about to start shooting. So let's see what this thing does. So whenever you're done shooting, you always want to check down the barrel, drop your magazine, make sure you have no more ammo in your magazine, look down the barrel, make sure your barrel is clear, and then close the slide. Anytime you're at the range, you always want to holster your weapon, or if you got a table, make sure the slide is locked to the rear, put your magazine down on the table, and then head down range. So I'm gonna see what I did. This is the first time shooting this gun. It's a little windy out here, so I could definitely feel the factor in all that. So let's see how I did. All right, guys. So we're gonna walk down range, make sure that everything's clear. Check out, see how I did. Like I said, it is definitely windy out here. I know there was a pretty big gust on these two, which threw my shot off a little bit, if I can make an excuse. Other than that, I've got a pretty tight little shot group right here. It looks like I've got 5 or 6 rounds in a tight little 2-inch group right there. I got real close to the center target, so or the bullseye rather. I'm pretty happy with that. One thing I did notice about the Glock, so I'll pull it out and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here. Okay, stand up real quick. I got my wife moving around everywhere. She's probably hating me. But one thing I did notice is I don't really have big hands. I probably have a medium-sized hand, I guess. But what I did notice is having my hand being my support hand hanging off and not really having anything to hold on to, you can see about how much is hanging off on the bottom. Lift my pinky up, you guys. I can close my pinky. It covers the bottom, and then the other bottom half, you can see that it's really struggling to try to support my grip. But there are extender mags that you can purchase that allows you to basically extend your grip, and so you would end up having a better grip at that point. I'm sure Glock makes some. There's some aftermarket that you can pick up as well. But either way, that might be the thing that I would need personally in order to solve that issue. Now, with that said, this is a concealed carry firearm. So you don't necessarily, you want this thing to be small and you want it to pack a big punch. So, I mean, you kind of got to weigh your pros and cons here. This firearm, it's going to be small enough to carry on an everyday basis. But if you're going out to the range and you're going to use this as your everyday shooter, I would probably get the extended mag for it, for those purposes. If you want to take it out, become more proficient with your firearm. So that's just what I've got with it. Now I'm going to load up another mag, and I'm going to take some more shots and see, and just try to have a little more fun with it. That was my 2 cents on the Glock 26. I'm out here, might as well have some fun. So I'm just gonna send some rounds downrange. All right, guys, so there it was. We finished up out here on the range. Had a good time with the Glock. Shot with my family. My lovely wife, she got to shoot as well. Overall, I like the gun. It's pretty accurate. I feel like I feel pretty confident shooting that firearm. A couple things you always want to remember when you're out here in God's country. If you're shooting, you definitely want to make sure that you clean up after yourself. So that means picking up all of your brass. You don't want to leave that stuff behind. So just leave God's country the way that God intended it. Clean up after yourself. Remember all of the safety tips that I've given you in this episode. So I am D-Book. We are without sin, and we are never missing the mark.